What you're hearing are the sights and the sounds of the border clashes between the Israelis and Palestinians in Gaza, where it appears the killing over the weekend of a Hamas commander who Israelis say was conspiring with Iran to buy weapons has apparently led to more violence between the Israelis and the Palestinians. So Palestinians fired rockets into Israel that reportedly killed 4 civilians. This while Israel returned the fire with a reported 21 Palestinians who perished. As we look at this, as we look at these images, we bring you the latest now on the fighting. Here now is RT correspondent Paula Slyer on the ground.
Well, a truce between Israel and the warring Gaza factions went into effect early on Monday morning. It was brokered by Egypt, Qatar and the United Nations. It came after the worst flare-up of violence between the sides in months. There were some 700 rockets that rained down on southern Israel, and the Israeli Air Force bombarded hundreds of locations inside Gaza, destroying and damaging many buildings. Now, the Israelis have not confirmed that they were in talks with Hamas because they cannot publicly acknowledge that they are negotiating with an organization they regard as a terrorist movement. But on Monday morning, the Israeli Defense Forces gave the order to lift all security restrictions on the south of the country. So effectively, this meant the situation went back to normal. Schools reopened, businesses reopened, and people left their bomb shelters. We do understand that the terms of the truce include an Israeli commitment to lift the siege on Gaza, to ease the fishing restrictions off the coast of Gaza, and also to provide fuel and electricity to the Strip. Now, the violence saw some 25 Palestinians killed, among them 2 pregnant women and toddlers. The Israelis deny that they were killed at the hands of their airstrikes, instead saying that the women died by rocket launchers that were being fired from the Gaza Strip. Israel has also resumed its policy of targeted assassinations. It killed a man in his 30s while he was traveling in his car inside Gaza, who is responsible for distributing cash that comes from Iran to the various factions inside Gaza. Now, among the buildings that was hit by the Israeli warplanes was the bureau office of the Turkish state-run news agency. Now, the Turkish President Erdogan has publicly criticized Israel, and tensions between Ankara and Tel Aviv have increased. On the Israeli side, 4 Israelis were killed. This is the highest casualty number that Israel has suffered in some 5 years since the last Israel-Gaza war back in 2014. Now, the feeling on the ground, both inside Gaza and Israel, is that this is merely a lull in fighting, and that unfortunately the flare-up will happen again. We have heard from Hamas after the ceasefire threatening Israel that if it doesn't commit to lifting the ceasefire, it will resume its rocket attacks. And speaking to Israelis here in the south of the country, many feel that they've been abandoned by the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Many Israelis would have liked him to have conducted a full-scale war inside Gaza to, quote them, once and for all, deal with the situation. The next 2 weeks are jam-packed on the Israeli calendar. You have Israeli Independence Day, Memorial Day. You have the 1-year anniversary of the American moving of its embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. You have Nakba Day, which is the Palestinian commemoration of what they call the catastrophe, the declaration of Israeli independence back in 1948. And all of this comes before the Eurovision Song Festival, slated to begin on the 14th of May. The sense very much is that Netanyahu does not want to disrupt any of those Memorial Days, any of those celebrations, and that he's perhaps planning to deal with the situation in Gaza after a fortnight. As far as Eurovision is concerned, there are some 20,000 tourists who are expected to descend on Tel Aviv, where the world's largest singing competition will be held. You already have international groups who have arrived. Rehearsals are underway, and both organizers of the competition as well as the Israeli Foreign Ministry are at pains to point out that the show must go on. At this stage, there are no known cancellations of foreign tourists coming here. But for now, the truce is holding, although, as I say, there is a real sense that the flare-up in violence will happen again. I'm Paula Slyer for News with Rick Sanchez, Tel Aviv.